Hello, this is Justin here with a quick tutorial on MadMapper and Modulate. I've set up the screen with these two programs. As you can see, the blue one is Modulate. So this is the main module here in the left-hand top corner with all the buttons and dials and so on. Modulate also includes this media set here, which is where our loops live, our assets or loops or visuals, whatever you want to call them. And we have two other modules here, one which is a mixing section, and this one here is our output, which can be a small little screen like this, or more commonly, this is the window up here in the right hand corner that will come out of the projector. So that's the basics of Modulate, how it sits in the window. It is modular, so you can move these things around. They can be grabbed and placed anywhere you like. And our second program is MadMapper, which is this one here, which is the less colorful version. So the basic roles are Modulate is where we put our video clips into and we manipulate them and arrange them as we want to see. And this is basically a VJ program. So if you see someone playing at a club, this will be the kind of program that they're using, and they might just be coming out onto a standard rectangular screen and playing all the different clips and mixing them together. What we do with projection mapping is we go one step further and we take that rectangular output and we then map it onto specific shapes. So MadMapper, this second program here, is where we do the shaping of the light, if you want to put it that way. Okay, so I thought we'd go through and do some basic mapping, and then when we go into specifics, everything should make a little more sense. So we have our files down here in our CCCC folder. So I'm going to grab one of these files and drop it into the media set just here. Now, I can grab the other three as well. And here we have some files all sitting in our media set. As you can see, I can put 16 in here and we have different banks. So there's a lot of loops that Modulate can hold. So now, if I come over here to the left-hand section, this is a layer section of Modulate. So I have two banks of 5 here, and what I need to do is click this button here, and that will give me one layer. So when I've got the orange around this layer, if I go back and click this loop, the loop is now appearing in our mixing area and in our output. If I click another loop, so I add another layer, so I click plus and I get a second layer here, and I click on our second loop, we'll see that we don't see that because the winning loop in terms of which one you see is always the top one. So if I move that layer there, we'll see our second loop. So it seems a little bit of a problem in terms of mixing things together, but what I like to do when I'm mapping is actually arrange them in a very simple manner so I can then manipulate them. So to have a few at once, I need to make them smaller. So if I keep this one, keep the orange on this one, and I go over here to my size and I make it smaller, in this window here, I can actually grab it and move it up into the, for now, the top left-hand corner. Then I go across to my second loop, I make that orange, and then make this smaller as well. And I can move over into this area and make that a bit smaller as well. I need 2 more loops, so 2 more layers to put loops in. So I'll click on that twice again, make sure that this one is the one which is highlighted by orange, and I go to my third loop over here and I click that. Now that appears large in the background. So I then move to this section just here, and I'll make that smaller, even smaller. And I'll go back over here, and I'll move that down to my left-hand side, down the bottom. I think I need to make that even a little smaller. Then on this fourth one, this is a tricky thing about modulate. You need to be careful where you highlight, because it really acts on what you're highlighting. You can start clicking a couple of loops and then you have your loops in the wrong areas. So be careful where you highlight. And my fourth loop, which has once again appeared large in the mixing and the output area. My fourth loop is running once again to the size here. I make that smaller. And then in my mixing area, I'll bring that. So we've got loops 1, 2, 3, and 4 sitting there. Pretty happy with that. I might just make my loop number 1. So I'll highlight that one. I might make that one just a little bit smaller so it doesn't impinge. Or impinge. And then what we need to do now, I'm pretty happy with that. So what we need to do now is go to the output and make sure that siphon is on. So I've gone output of modulate, siphon is on. And what that means is now this video here is being outputted to the mapping program, which is MadMapper. In here, in MadMapper, I can have live camera coming from the webcam, or I can have various other inputs. That's where I might drop a movie or a still image. But what I have here is siphon coming in from modulate. And this is what we're seeing here. Now, this is our input, but we need to map it. So if I go up to this second button here, I have these options: square, line, triangle. That's a mask, which I'll explain later. And circle. Now we've got some nice kind of circular looking loops here, so I might try for a circle. So what's happening is this is our input coming from modulate. And what we have here is a circle, and I can determine which part of this image I show. So I can show the bubbles, I can show this loop, the spangly starry loop. I actually really like this one here. So I've decided I want to show this area of that loop, and this right hand window is what we're projecting. So if I've got a circle that I'd like to project onto, I can change the size like this. I can turn it, I can change the shape of the circle by moving these around. But this is the one you would start to use, just getting the size right. So we could project that onto any spherical or circular shape. And now let's say I have a triangular shape. I just click on this one. We've got our second image. So it starts off with surface and then surface 1. Shows it's a triangle, and here's our triangle here, which I'd like to make a little smaller. I like to keep it simple and just map one of these 4 things onto whichever shape I'm looking at. And let's have a look at this spangly one here. So I'm determining how much of the shape I'm showing. I'll keep it within the boundaries of this loop. And here's our triangle over here, which we can move and shape to whatever we're after. Okay, so pretty much we've gone from having some files, we've put them into the media set, which is where our loops live. We dropped them onto a layer and then resized them so I could put 4 into one output. And there is our, that's not actually our output, which is gone to MadMapper now, but that's our mixing area, and that's showing what my output is. We turned on siphon and we went into MadMapper. We made sure we had siphon clicked here, and then we went to the second button along, got some surfaces going, and did a small amount of mapping. So that's the very quick overview, and now we'll start looking at going further into each section of the program.